Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Sia Knight, and welcome to Lessons in Savvy Living. This is a podcast in which I talk with real women. They tell their real stories and share real lessons. And today, you're definitely in for a treat. I have a woman here who's going to tell her story. Actually, she's telling the story from halfway around the world. That's one of the great things about this platform, because I've been able to talk to women all over the world, which is I didn't foresee that. But we have Lola, and let me see if I can say your name correctly, Lola, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, Lola Oyefemi.
Okay, it is Lola Oyafem.
Oh, good gracious. I just messed the whole thing up. So I'm so sorry. I had prided myself. I'm like, I'm going to get this right. No, I did not. But that's okay. Lola, besides the correct pronunciation of your name, tell us three things that we should know about you before we get started into the subject matter of today's episode.
Okay, the first thing is for a long time, it took me a long time before I started appreciating the fact that I was female. Most of my life, for the first 18 years of my life, I always wanted to be a boy.
Oh.
Because in some parts of the world, people put a lot of preference on male children as opposed to female children. And there were like so many things I wanted to do. And I always felt, well, I would have been able to do it if I was a man instead of being a woman. So I think that's the first thing, because most of my life I wasn't happy being a woman, right?
Oh.
And the second thing is it took me a while before I was able to decide to start business. And what pushed me into business was not losing my job or leaving because I was tired. I was literally forced because I was replaced by a man.
Mm.
So I was replaced in my office by a guy, and that was what forced me to go into business. And the third thing is I'm very passionate about women in business, because unconsciously we don't know, but we're showing girls that are coming that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. Like one woman that always, I've never met her because I've never been to the US, Oprah Winfrey. I used to watch Oprah when I was small in my house, and I was always saying, if a woman can do this, I can do it. You see, that was just pushing me. And I think right now, more than ever, women all over the world, we need to see women actually do things in business, in life, and actually become great. And that just pushes women who are coming from behind. So those are like the real three things about me that I hardly ever share, but those are like my three inner things.
Oh, wow, that's very interesting, because especially the whole male uh, make you're living in a male dominated society. Actually, we're all living in a male dominated world, and you felt it so much that you said to yourself, "Boy, it would be easier if I were a guy." So find that to be fascinating. And also, and of course, I'm in the United States. And even though I'm in the US, I've never met Oprah either, but I definitely can connect with being inspired by her, and knowing that she uh, has paved the way for many of us. So that's great. So we are actually talking today about running a business with your spouse. And Lola,
Just call it anyway. Anyway, it's fine. But you're getting it. You're getting it. It's better than the first
I'm getting closer. Closer. Okay.
time.
Tell us about your experience with this and what your background is, and what do you know about running a business with your spouse?
Okay, well, I've been running the business with my husband now for the past 3 years, and we're running it together 2 years before we got married. So I think I never expected that I was going to run a business with my spouse. That was like the last thing on my mind. But growing up, I have an uncle, and my uncle is very bad with business. He has lost the family money more than 10 times. But
Oh,
his wife is such an intelligent businesswoman. So what my uncle does, because then most times women didn't really show up like that. So my uncle used to like be the front, but his wife was doing all the back end deals and everything. And they had like a sawmill, so they were supplying wood, and they're the richest people in my family right now. And I mean they're really rich. Like their kids are going abroad, they're everywhere. And this woman, it's a family business. So when me and my husband were out of job, then we were just dating. I was thinking, what can I do next? So we first were looking for different jobs. And I remember one time putting a call to my uncle's wife, who's my auntie, and she told me that, what if both of you start a business? And I said, family businesses, it's somehow, what if the man feels something, or the woman? And there are like so many intricacies. And so we just said, okay, we'll try something else. And this is the third year, surprisingly. And one thing I did learn was, it really depends on on what the family dynamics are, or what you, both of you are. Not everyone who can actually start family business. Like in my business, I'm the face of the business. He doesn't do anything. I mean facially, but he does all the back end stuff. He does writing, he does pages, he does design, but he doesn't talk to customers. So he's not the face of the business. And for us, that was what made it easy, because both of us are not competing. I'm okay being the front end. He's okay being the back end.
okay. That's very interesting that you each have your own role in running the business. And it seems to be kind of complementary as opposed to if both people want to be out front, sometimes that can cause a bit of conflict or a bit of some type of problem. So it's good. It seems that you each have your own distinct role. And what kind of business do you have? And what exactly? So when you say you're in the front end and he does the back in work, what kind of work is that?
Okay, together we run a content agency. And I say together because because I always used to be like the person always talking about it online and reaching out to people about it. I used to always say my business, my business, my business, and it caused a lot of issues between us. And one day my husband just said, I'm also working on this business. It's not your business.
Mm.
So I'm saying this with a lot of purpose, yes. So together we do run a content agency, and gradually I am easing into coaching about messaging. And the reason I'm going out of just doing the content was because when we had this baby, that's when I realized the main disadvantage about family businesses. So I had my son, and it was an emergency
Mm.
CS, the cesarean session. And for 6 weeks, my husband was like taking care of the baby, and we were both like running around in circles. So no one was working. And after 6 weeks, both of us were just flat out broke. So January this year, we were both broke. So that's when I just saw that, okay, fine, we have a business together. But sometimes it's also nice to have another stack out there, because things happen in the family, right? And you can never really, foresee what will happen next.
Right. Okay. That is a very interesting piece of it because when you're running a business or businesses together, if something happens with both of you and you're unable to work on that particular project, the question is, are there other streams of income that can come in and help the entire family? So that's a very interesting piece of the puzzle, especially when, and I should ask it because I see your son is there now, and he, as mothers, I'm going to generalize, which I know I'll may get dragged for. I'll generalize, but I'm sorry, but when it's time to be soothed, when it's time when the child is teething, when the child is hungry in the first few months, they're not saying, "Hey, Dad, Daddy, I need this." They're like, "Mm-mm." They're looking for mom. So I can imagine that before you had the baby, the way you divided things might have been maybe a little different than the way you dividing them now, or am I wrong?
Yes, it's a bit different But most times, I think it just depends. Like, I'm the one doing the lives, I'm the one reaching out to people. So most times when I do lives, the baby's with my husband, right? But not all the time. Like now, he's with me. So I think it's right now it's quite more complicated, because before it's just you do this, I do this. There's no other person involved. But with the baby, we now have to say, okay, I'm with the baby today. You're with the baby tomorrow, and we just kind of move the baby around. Before the pandemic, we had a housekeeper that comes in every single day. So all through our work hours, the housekeeper is holding the baby, right? But now because of the pandemic, she stuck where she is,
Right.
we're where we are. We're both like taking turns with him. And today is my turn, so he's here.
That's great. But that is so true. Just everywhere around the world. And I mentioned that I'm in the United States. And where are you located?
I live
Because
in Nigeria.
so
I live in
yeah.
Nigeria.
So this is a worldwide issue. We talk about childcare. We talk about how things have changed and shifted in the last few months. So it's not just here and it's not just local. This has been a global issue, and it can be some ways better, some ways worse when you work with your spouse, because when we have spouses who have different jobs and different, one person can be working in the study or in the office, and the other person's like, well, I have the kids, or that sort of thing. So I mean, it is, you said it's complicated just by adding another person in the mix. It gets complicated, and yeah, it'll get more complicated too. Sorry, hate to break that to you. As your child starts school and everything, that'll be another interesting piece of it.
Yes, and the thing is, it's why I said it's complicated, because here most people don't even believe we have jobs. Everyone is mostly working a 9 to 5, and we're like the only people in our both families who actually run a business from home. So we're like different, and everyone's like, when are you going to get a real job? So that people are always asking me that. I'm
Right.
fine. I'm great and everything. So, but now that there's this pandemic, I'm not saying this to like gloat about it, but a lot of them are now asking me. So some days ago, my mother-in-law was saying, "What are you people even doing like?" So it's now
Hmm.
it's like we're coping, but the workload is more because there's no help. And if you really know much about the African setting, you know that when you have a child, everyone comes to help. So like the first 2 weeks of my baby being around, I had like 6 people in the house. So someone is carrying the baby, someone is doing this. Everyone just wants you to quickly recover, and so there's a lot of hope. But now for the first time, this is the first time that in a month I'm not like having like at least 7 visitors. So no visitors in
Oh,
the last 2 months.
oh wow. Yeah, so that is a big difference then, right? Oh my gosh. So
So
interesting, interesting. So you and your now husband decided to run this business together. And then in the course of that, you before you got married, then you got married, continued to run the business. And then is this something that you see continuing for the rest of your working lives, or do you think that you might do something a little bit different in terms of working on different projects?
right now I'm pivoting a bit to do a lot of coaching and consulting, which my husband is not like part of.
Hmm.
But what I think is together we have a brand, we have a content agency. But I like doing coaching, I like doing consulting. He's not too much into that, but he supports that. So I'm thinking that for the rest of our lives, we can all have like pet projects we do, but the core of our business is still together. Because I've noticed that when we run business together, it's easier for both of us. It helps our marriage in a way. We have the same goals. We're on the same page when it comes to money. There's really no issue. And for me, it allows me to have this freedom as a woman. because, and I'm saying it because most of your listeners maybe will take this for granted, but where I come from, we have women who have PhDs and they're not getting jobs because their husbands say they must not work. So
Oh.
it's that bad. People say, oh, you why don't you just stay at home and do nothing and have babies and everything? So the fact that we're running a business together, that removes that argument out of the way. There's no argument of you're going to one job and you're coming late or anything. And,
Mm-hmm.
like we say here, we say, is this right for a married woman? So
Uh-huh.
all those things are out of the way here. So the fact that we run a business together gives me a lot of power play because it allows me to bring in something financially. And I believe that when a woman brings in some money into the house and she has a say financially, she's able to balance the power play in the home.
I think that what you're saying is not only true in Nigeria, but I think it is a worldwide tenet. And I think a lot of people in a lot of places would agree with that. Um, and I don't think one is either absolutely right and one is absolutely wrong. And it just matters what works for your house and your family. But I have heard a lot of women who have also said, yes, that is how I contribute and have more of a say because I'm financially contributing. So it's just interesting the way that different dynamics take place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is interesting to know how this came to be, you and your now husband get starting this business, continuing this business, how it's changed since you've had the baby and kind of morphed a little bit. Also, it's been interesting to hear since the dreaded pandemic has hit, how things have changed within your household and dynamic as well. So I'm sorry to hear about that. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to real life soon. So
Amen. Amen.
yes, yes. So
Never believed I'll miss my mother-in-law. I never believed it, but I
uh,
do.
yeah, that's hilarious. You're like, oh, my mother-in-law, is she available? I sure would like to see her now. You things you never thought you would say. For 200, Alex. There you go. So, but hopefully things will be back to normal soon. And by the time that this airs, we are filming this in the middle of, or hopefully towards the end of this whole stay at home order and that sort of thing. Hopefully by the time this is released, it'll be but a mere memory. Like, remember when we all had to stay home and everything? So fingers crossed, we'll see. But so tell me, if people wanted to reach out to you and wanted to talk to you about your content agency, first of all, what is a content agency? People are going to say, well, what does that mean? What do you do for people? And tell me where they could find you and how they can contact you.
Okay, I'm always available on Facebook. So, but anyway, a content agency is okay. It's like how would I explain it? But it's a business where people or you outsource your content for other people to do. So, content like Facebook posts, social media posts, generally, blog posts, emails, all your copy, you can outsource it, and we will do it for you in your own voice because we have a method where both of us, my husband and I, both have a degree in mass communication. So we have both worked in the media before. So we're going to do an interview and a lot of drama and everything. And the main thing is so we can get your own voice. So every content we write for you is going to be written for you in your own voice. You're going to read it and you'll be like, gosh, I think, was I the one that wrote this? And that's the emotion we want to get.
Wow. And you do this worldwide. You have clients all over.
And for me to train on content all the time, yes, I've not had a Nigerian client in the last 3 years.
So it's all over. Okay, that's good to know. And then if people wanted to contact you, you said you're on Facebook a lot, but are any websites or places where they could reach out to you?
Okay, yes, you can reach out to me on my website, lolaoyafemi.com, where we're working our content agency website. So that's not up yet, but we're working on it again. So lolaoyafemi.com, I'm always there available. And I have a Facebook group, 6-Figure Messaging Strategies for Coaches, Consultants, and Experts. And I'm always going live there on Thursdays, where I teach things about messaging, about content, about how to use your content to actually make some money, because that's the goal, right? You're not just writing because
Absolutely.
you want to write.
Yes, I was just watching your live today about how one post earned you over $10,000. So if you want to hear more information about things like that, Loya, did I say Loya? Okay. My good friend from Nigeria, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Tia, for having me. I really appreciate this.
No problem. And everybody, that's it for this episode of Lessons in Savvy Living. Until next time, stay savvy. Bye.